All right. Buffalo Brother George, how are you today?
Oh, Buffalo Brothers, I am fantastic. Down here in Florida, it was almost 87 degrees today. Kids were in the pool. Life is wonderful. Summer's on its way, but so is football.
Well, that's true.
We got a
Well,
lot of football stuff
it
ahead.
is getting closer. Yeah, so the legal tampering period, does that start next week?
Yeah, I think it starts Monday at noon, and
Okay.
that's Eastern time. But John, the Bills made a lot of moves this week to get under the cap.
Yes.
Many of the experts are questioning whether or not the Bills are going to be the same without the people that they dropped.
Right?
And is their window for a Super Bowl shut down?
Okay. Well, we've got lots of questions then, don't we?
Let's see if we can come up with some answers.
Okay, so where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with let's talk about
Okay.
the
Easy.
people that the Bills dropped.
Okay, the ones that cut.
They traded Bates,
Is it Ryan Bates?
Ryan Bates. John, what did Ryan Bates do for us last year?
He was a backup offensive lineman.
How many times did he play?
Well, I don't think very much. He didn't start at all.
I don't think he came in even once.
It's possible.
So what are we going to lose from him not being there?
Well, your floor is going to get lower.
Oh,
Your backups won't be as good, maybe.
yeah, okay. Then we got rid of Mitch Morris.
Cut Mitch Morris.
Cut Mitch Morris. He's been there all the time for Josh Allen. He's been his center, and he's done a pretty good job. But he's 31 years old. And what did we see happen with Mitch Morris last year?
Well, he struggled on some pass protection. He could get bull rushed right into Allen.
How many times do we sit there and watch Mitch Morris get pushed back by a nose tackle right into Josh Allen's lap? Now, Josh Allen wasn't sacked, no, but Josh Allen was running for his life.
Yeah.
You know, they want to talk about people want to talk about, oh, the Bills' offensive line was much better, and by statistics, you could say that.
Well, it was better in that he didn't get sacked as much.
But he was still running for his life just as much. He really didn't have the time he needed.
Yeah.
It's time for Mitch Morse to go. And they let him go. How about Poyer, Jordan Poyer? Wonderful player, great player.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did we watch Jordan Poyer last year jumping backwards like this to try and tackle a guy that was running right past him?
Oh, yeah. That was an issue.
Now, that doesn't mean Jordan Poyer didn't do good things. Maybe there's other players that didn't have his intelligence, and by intelligence, I mean his football savvy from experience, and was in the right hole at the right time and made a tackle. But how many times have we see wide receivers, tight ends just going right past them?
Well, both safeties. Both
Yeah, both safeties. So as much as we like Jordan Poyer, he's not the guy to get it done. He doesn't have it anymore. I loved him. Good for him. Thank you, Jordan. Have a nice life. It's time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who else? Craig White.
You're right.
Great guy. Wonderful. What
Good
did
person.
what did he do for
Good
us last year?
player. Well, he was injured at the start of the season, came back, was trying to come back from a knee operation, but
Mm-hmm.
hurt his knee. I think he hurt the other knee.
What did he do the year before?
Also injured.
And,
Injured around October.
and he's getting paid a lot of money to sit on the bench.
Well, I don't know how much of his contract was guaranteed, so he may not get paid very much at all.
And this
But
year,
he
there's
was missing a lot of games.
he wasn't going to start this year. He was going to be out for a while.
Oh, he wasn't probably going to be available at the
So if he's
season.
not going to be available at the beginning of the season, it's time to move on.
It's time to move on from sure.
So what did we really lose? I don't think a lot. Experience, um, in the locker room stuff, in the
Yeah, the safeties were supposed to be pretty good leaders.
in the meeting rooms. Like I'm sure they had good stuff to say, but this is a young man's game,
It is.
and it's time to turn the page.
It is for the safeties in particular. It's past.
Yeah,
With Mitch Morris, he was the guy they brought in.
Mm-hmm.
They knew bringing him in that he was a center who was undersized. His game was a mobile game, because he could pull and whatnot. And they knew that potentially he could need help from a guard when he got pressure up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. But how many times did we see teams bring five guys? Sometimes they lined them right up. Sometimes they brought someone. But the whole point of that is to make every guy on the line have to block their own. And Mitch could struggle with that. If he got like up against, a guy like Daquan Jones, he could struggle with that. And he often did.
Now, does that mean we're not going to see these players come back? Not necessarily, not yet. You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know. They could bring Poyer back if he doesn't get a contract. He might want to come back for a pay cut. Mitch Morris, the same thing. We don't know.
Right.
So it's possible.
Right.
But they didn't give us what we needed last year, and it's not looking better for them this year. So if we, what I always say, if you do what you did, you get what you got. And that was like, if we kept the same players, we were not going to perform any better than we did last year.
Right.
It's time to move on, make changes, and move forward. Now, do we think that they've missed their window of opportunity
For Super Bowl?
for a Super Bowl, for a championship?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think they've got a good group of core players, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that with a few additions for Josh Allen, they could be unbelievably good
Offense? Yeah. As long as they have him and he's playing well,
Mm-hmm.
that's the single most important thing to get if you're trying to build a team that can challenge for a Super Bowl is the quarterback. So as long as you have that, your window is open. Now he can't play defense. He also can't throw the ball and then run downfield and catch it. So he needs help. But the window is still available for a couple more years. He's going to enter his seventh season, and that's the single biggest factor in a window.
Yeah, and the Bills for our offense to just become that much better again to where they were a couple of years ago. They're really only a couple of players away. We really need that number two. We really need that number two receiver, if not a number one receiver, and working in its way before Diggs hangs it up. But there's a couple of guys out there the Bills are in line to draft for.
All right, so
That could
we're going
make
to pause
yeah.
for one. Okay, we are back.
All right, so what we were talking about is Josh Allen just needs a couple of more things to get that offense back up and rolling. We need a receiver that can threaten and has threaten deep and has separation ability, and somebody else who's got speed. Let's get our Tyreek Hill out there.
Okay, yeah, that would be
We
good.
don't have him now, but we got to find him.
McKenzie didn't work out. Hardy didn't work out. They need to get a more talented individual in there.
A guy that could actually catch the ball when it's thrown to him and turn the burners on. And we need to get bigger on our offensive line.
Right, I agree.
Now, McGovern's going to move to center. He's bigger than Mitch Morris was. And you got Edwards coming in. So you've got some bigger by replacing Mitch Morris, you got some more beef up front.
Right.
And I wouldn't mind seeing another guy that can come in and rotate in and out if you need to, or be a strong backup or potential center.
You traded away Bates and you cut Morris. So just from what they had last year, that's two players down.
Yeah.
So they're gonna, I'm sure, bring in multiple new offensive linemen to compete for those two spots. Even if those two spots are not starting spots, they still are going to go into the game with 9 offensive linemen dressed.
Yeah, and I don't think the offensive lineman replacements are going to be that difficult. It's whether or not are we really going to get a burner like a Tyreek Hill? Are we going to get a guy that can get deep and get separation? Well, there are guys in the draft, young guys that can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And so the Bills have an opportunity to go get their guys.
Yeah. I know you've been studying. You were studying the combine, watching all of it, but in particular the wide receivers.
Mhm.
And I know you've been looking at some mock drafts, doing some mock drafts just to see who might be available at the Bills picks in each round.
Yeah, what I've been finding out is that in the first round, the majority of times you're either able to come up with a Adonai Mitchell out of Texas,
Okay, AD Mitchell
and that is definitely
has
has
been available.
he's
Is that
got
first round?
speed,
Hands.
he's got hands, and he's got separation ability, and he can get free on the outside deep down the field. And I heard of statistics. Don't quote me, you can check it out, but it was like his average catch is like 15 yards, and 84% of his catches went for first downs
First
or better.
downs.
I mean, come on,
Sounds like
that's
a
a guy
guy.
that moves chains.
That sounds like a guy who can keep your drive alive. Yeah.
And
Well,
they,
not keep it alive as that he may not be the guy you go to on third down, but if you're making first downs on first and second down, that counts. That's got to count.
and another Texas wide receiver, because he's from Texas, Xavier Worthy. That's a kid that ran 4.21 in
The combine,
40 yard dash. He's a guy that coming out of the slot, he can catch the ball and turn on those jets. There's our Tyreek Hill. So I don't know if they can get both, but they should be able to get one or the other, and that could make a difference. And if Bean wants to get aggressive, maybe they can get them both. If that's what they want to do, they can do it, and the ability is there. But if they do decide to get them both and be aggressive, they're not going to get their defensive linemen starters out of that draft. You're going to get some depth pieces, but that means we're going to have to see them going after defensive linemen in free agency. So we'll see by free agency what they do should tell us what they're going to do in the draft. And so if we're seeing defensive linemen, then hold on to your hat for some wide receivers and Josh Allen get some weapons finally that could make John Brown. Can you imagine a John Brown if he was 6'2" and 205 pounds?
No, that's
I
a
mean,
weapon. Yeah,
that's a weapon. And with that kind of speed and that kind of separation ability, what's that going to do opening up for Stephon Diggs?
For Diggs, for Shakir, for the tight end there,
for
Knox and Kincaid, right?
And if they get a guy like Xavier Worthy, there's going to be a hell of a competition for Shakir.
To get
as much as we're seeing Shakir get better and better, and I love the guy, I'd like to see competition. I'd like to see a guy that can burn, throw the ball 5-7 yards down the field and have him turn on those jets. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
going past.
Oh, I can. Yes, I can.
Linebackers.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I don't have to imagine. I saw Kansas City do it to us any number of times when we played Turk Hill. I watched. Yeah. All right. So, and then I was at the Bills game 2 years ago when they came to Tampa. They had a strong second half. They tied. They went to overtime and they lost to Brady and the Buccaneers. And I can tell you, our safeties were slow. You know, the Tampa had Godwin, and now he is a fast receiver. And Evans, who isn't known for speed, but you know, those guys wreaked havoc with those safeties. Even though the Brady didn't necessarily throw him the ball, you could see they struggled.
You know, and if you're not sure that the Bills are not past their window, then look at the Vegas odds right now. The Bills are at the very least number 3 or number 4 in Super Bowl possible winners on the betting line.
Well, I got to tell you, betting lines don't mean anything to me for that. 2 years ago, they were the favorite. because they lost a close playoff game.
Well, no, I
So
understand that, but
I mean, that's
if you're
meaningless.
third or fourth, that sure is not. You tell me that you go look at it and you see the 27th or the 28th pick. It's not the Bills. The Bills are still up there in the top group. They have got the core that can do it. It's now up to Bean if he can get him the players, and then it's now up to our new coaching staff. Yes, we have McDermott, but you got Bobby Babbage on defense, and you've got Brady on offense. And give Brady some of those receivers. You saw Brady at the end of this year really trying to take advantage of James Cook.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He
yes,
didn't have the weapons on offense to do it in the receiving room. And so he had to go to Cook. And he did a good job. And we won, what, 5 in a row to get it win that division?
Yes, we did.
Imagine if you get him some burners.
Well, I can imagine it. I can.
So I say they're not only not past our window, I think they're right smack in it. And we're going to tell by when we see free agency open up and that early tampering period next week. And we're going to hear what's going on and see what's going on and see who's being signed. And I say, don't go looking for them to try and get Calvin Ridley, but let's see if they could re-sign Daquan Jones. Let's see if they do those kinds of things. Let's see if they find a reason to re-sign their edge rusher, Floyd. Let's see what they're doing on defense, and then open up that draft for these young speedsters.
Okay.
All right. That's what I got to say.
That's a plan. All right. That sounds good. I think that's a good plan. The you were talking about the Bills defensive line, and I just want to throw like three. They effectively have one defensive tackle side.
Mm-hmm.
So you know they have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive tackle. They also lost. Well, Epineza is now a free agent,
Mm-hmm.
and what you said there, who got all the sacks last year?
Floyd.
Floyd. He is now a free agent. So that's a lot of defensive line snaps that you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Miller can take up some of those, but he can't take up all of them. Presumably he'll be healthy this year. He can take up some, but not all. So whether it's draft or free agency, they've got to address defensive line. And I'm perfectly fine with them doing that with veterans. They've used low price free agent veterans for nose tackle and defensive tackle for years. So doing it another year is fine. Like that's their thing.
I got to tell you, Von Miller, really didn't have an impact this last year.
Well, no.
And before we say he's really going to impact the Bills next year, first of all, is he going to be healthy? Let's say he is better, but he's older too. So in order for him to be effective, he's got to stay fresh. So you're going to have to rotate in edge rushers, and we don't have them right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like because Epeneza's a free agent. What's his name is a free agent. I forgot his name again. I do not know
Floyd, both free agents.
If Shaq Lawson is a free agent, he might be. So that you're talking about effectiveness, and I'm just talking about they need people to complete those 60 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So whether Miller gets 20 a game or 30 a game or 40 a game, they still have an awful lot left that other players have to. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure they'll draft at least one defensive lineman, whether that's on the edge or nose tackle or interior, but maybe more than one. I'm sure, but even if they do draft one, they've got to bring in free agents. There's no option. And they've got to find there's a lot of safety snaps that have gone right. They signed is it Rap?
Mm-hmm.
They signed Rap to a 3-year deal. So presumably he'll be starting.
That's your safety depth right now. DeMar Hamlin and Rap.
Well, it's not. That's not your depth. I think
That's your starters. They have no depth.
They have no depth. Yeah. So someone to compete with Halen for the other spot, and then still another guy. They need two safeties, and whether that's through the draft or free agency, I don't know. We do know that rookies coming onto this defense tend not to get a lot of playing time.
That's right.
They don't. They tend not to get a lot of playing time. So um, we saw that with Bernard. We saw that with Dorian Williams last year. We saw that with Elam. Um, even though he was a first round pick, they did not feel like they had to start him. They started their backup.
You know, far fetched, but the Bills could draft or find a linebacker, and you could see a guy like Benford. Could they move him to safety? He's light enough. He's quick enough. You might see Benford move into safety.
Uh, I can't believe that you have said that. All the talk about Benford becoming a safety, that he may become a safety when he's too old to be a cornerback and can't keep up. Like that's not.
I didn't mean Benford. I apologize. I didn't mean Benford. I meant Terrell Bernard, who is our middle linebacker right now. He could be a safety if they get themselves a little bigger, heavier, aggressive um, linebacker.
Well, anything is
Terrell
possible.
Bernard could move to safety,
Anything is
not
possible.
Benford. I'm sorry. That
But
was my mistake.
he would immediately become the biggest, slowest safety in the league. So I don't know how that would possibly be an improvement, but you could do it.
I don't know
I'm
his
sure.
speed, but is he slow?
For safety?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For safety.
That's why I said far-fetched.
As a middle linebacker, he's undersized and he's quickness and he's got speed. As a safety, he's oversized, and his nickname would be Old Slewfoot. Like that's he look like he's got a chain wrapped around his leg back there trying to trying to center field. So um with that said,
okay, so we're gonna bury that idea.
with that said, like last year, drafting a linebacker though and leaving Bernard, like you had a guy, Bernard, who surprised the league with how well he played.
Yeah.
Why you would take him out of that spot and move him to a new spot, it doesn't make much sense. But they could use Dorian Williams is there, but they still need another linebacker. They had to get a guy off the couch.
They absolutely need another linebacker.
So
you can't go to like we're getting late in the year and we're on playoffs, so you're gonna go find this guy off his couch.
Yeah, the guy off his couch is that's not a solution. He came in one game as a backup or something when somebody got hurt, and he did fine. But once the offense knew he was going to be there and could plan, he was a complete liability on every play.
Yeah,
every play.
All right. Well, I still think watching what the Bills do
in free
agency, I'm gonna. We come back, I'm gonna have to eat my words if I'm wrong, but I think we're gonna see them attacking the defense.
Sure.
So that they can
get
some youth and speed in on the offense.
You know, I wouldn't say wrong or right. And somebody like, look, you've given a lot of thought and seen what's out there. And this is you've come up with a plan of attack that I think is a legitimate plan of attack. So Bean may choose his own way of doing it. That doesn't actually, even though Bean has the job, I don't know that he's any better than you at it. So with that said, like your plan is
perfectly legitimate. Plan.
Yeah, it's perfectly legitimate.
How many times have we asked ourselves, they keep telling us follow the process, and we go, we don't know what the process is. We don't know what the plan is.
Don't know what the plan is, right? Well, I gotta tell you, I the other day I had a revelation. I would like to take you back in time. So you gotta go like this. Going back in time. Okay. It's 2 years ago. In the draft, we are going to draft Cook. Trying to get your time frame here. They tried to sign, is it DJ McKissick as a free agent? And he was a restricted free agent, or even if he wasn't, Washington matched the numbers, and so he signed with that. So they didn't get him. and they ended up drafting Cook.
Yeah, they wanted the kid from that went to the Jets, Brees Hall.
Well,
I know it.
I
They
ha-
wanted
I
Brees
hate
Hall.
I hate to say this publicly,
Mhm.
but in your mind, they wanted Brees Hall. I
Yeah,
get that.
yeah.
You were dead set on that. You've always said that.
Mhm.
I've never seen any evidence from the Bills to indicate that they wanted Brees Hall so much.
It was
In
in
fact,
my mind.
you've come up with a scenario where not only were they disappointed they didn't
They're
get
like
them,
they were scrambling. They don't know what to do.
they couldn't comprehend what happened,
Mhm.
and then pick Cook in a moment of panic.
That's exactly what I think happened.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I've explained that.
And I understand that is your scenario, and I get it.
Yeah.
I've never seen any evidence of that. The number of times that they practice their mock drafts and stuff, I'm sure they mocked that Brees Hall wouldn't be available. So why, when it really happened, they would throw all that out the window and not be able to make a decision? I don't know. But that's your thing, and you stick to it. That's not where I'm going. Where I'm going with this is we are back in time.
Mhm.
The previous year, we drafted Rousseau in the first round,
Mhm.
and they drafted Boogie Basham in the second round.
Mhm.
They so just trying to get my friend. And after the draft, I believe it was after the draft, we get shocked. The Bills went out and signed a high price free agent in Von Miller.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's my revelation. We go forward 2 full years. It's the off season now. It's Miller's. We're about to enter Miller's third um, season. What I didn't realize, and partially I didn't realize because as much as I like to follow Cap, I don't actually know all of their contracts inside and out. But when they signed him, they knew that 2024 was coming. And they knew that they did not have cap space,
Mhm.
that this was the year they were going to have to make. It was going to be hard. Um, it didn't have to be Morris, and it didn't have to be the safeties, and it didn't have to be, well, whatever. But they could add it up and they could see how far over the cap, because, Allen's contract had so much cap space each year and it keeps going up. They knew it was going to be 47 million this year. They knew that this year they were going to have to make tough decisions as far as cutting guys that they maybe would like to keep. They maybe would like to keep Mitch Morris, but couldn't afford him. They maybe would like to keep Trey White and give it a chance to see how. But I think his cap hit. Like I think he was good built to be paid close to $15 million this year. They just knew they knew they were going to have to make tough decisions, although they didn't know exactly who and what. They knew it was going to be tough. George, what I didn't realize 2 years ago when they signed Miller, they were going for broke. They had a 2 year window to win it all.
That's what I with too. I agree with you. And this year, they knew they were going to have to pay the piper,
Paid a
but they
piper this year.
thought they were going to
They
have a
thought they were
Super
going to win.
Bowl in the
They
bank, and everybody would be fine with it.
2 years previously, they had been to an AFC Championship game. The previous playoff, I think, is the one where they went to overtime and lost without ever receiving the ball. Dave Davis had the big year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time period we're in. They thought they had the offense to win. And with this one move, that's the move. The defensive line was going to be more explosive. They were going to be able to, they were going to just use four guys to put pressure on the quarterback, anticipating that in addition to Miller playing well, Rousseau would come along. Rousseau would develop. He was supposed to be a pass rusher. Um, they gave themselves a 2 year window, knowing COVID hit. COVID adjusted the cap because in some ways, yeah, that was the first year ever the cap went down, and they anticipated going up. It actually went down. And in some ways, they never, you don't recover that money because although the cap starts to go up again, there's still a gap up here that you thought you'd be up here and you're still in here. You don't really get it back. Um, they every team was given like the cap is larger this year than many teams anticipated, and that's wonderful. But they're still dealing with cap issues. The Buffalo Bills entered this offseason, or going into 2024, they were the team with the over the cap the most, in the worst cap issue. And I did not realize that going into this year, which is why I did not realize that they, in signing Miller, I mean, that was it. That was their thing. They pushed all their pots, they pushed it all in the ring, and now they got to rebuild. Now they've got to go. They don't have to go younger, but they've got to go cheaper, right? Because if you're signing a free agent on a prove it deal, well, he's a free agent. He's not necessarily younger. He's not younger the way a rookie would be younger, but and he may only be a little bit younger than the guy you let go, but he is, but he's cheap.
Mhm.
They're going to have to fill up. They're going to have to utilize some cheap. Do you remember who was uh, the the personnel guy before
Not Wiley.
Wiley? Under Wiley, it was not uncommon for them to have replaced the roster 20-25 guys. He was a master at these 1 year, 2 year prove-it deals.
Mhm.
They're going to have to do that this year, and maybe a little next year to get out from under the dead cap space that they got, all the dead cap space. But um, that's that was a decision they made 2 years ago, and now they got to do it. And this is we see the consequences of it. They got a little bit of help because the cap is a little bigger than they thought, but they still got to do it. And they didn't get. Not only did they not get their Super Bowl, they didn't even get back to an AFC Championship game. So overall, that plan was a fail.
Mhm.
Right, that was a fail.
Well, look, the Bills, when I look at their window is good as long as Josh Allen is good.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you that, in my opinion, I agree with you that they went for broke and they really thought they had a Super Bowl last year or the year before. And this would all be like we're riding in the parade.
Right, we're right in print. Now we
And-
got now we got to tighten the belts,
tighten the
but we
belt.
got the
Well,
trophy.
we got the
We got the
trophy.
rings.
So now they have to look at it like, listen, we didn't get the trophy. We didn't get fired. So now we got to make our plan. I don't think their plan is going to be we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they're got to say to themselves, we got a 2 or 3 year window to win the Super Bowl. And with that, we have to make some changes. One, we're forced to because of the cap, and two, we're forced to because some of the players were long in the tooth.
Okay, so let me go back to my point.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing, and here's where my criticism comes. I don't criticize the Von Miller move per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a fellow named Barrett who was also a free agent that year, might have cost a little more, but he was the guy you should have signed. He is currently with the Buccaneers and is getting double-digit sacks a year. So I think they may have talked to him and he wouldn't go to Buffalo. I don't know, but I think they might have missed their target on who. But my issue with their plan wasn't that they went all in, but in those 2 years, at that point they no longer had Beasley or Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a hodgepodge in the wide receiver room. After Diggs, who have they had in the wide receiver room that was capable? Like they had high hopes for Davis, but he was not capable.
Not capable.
They didn't bring in a guy who was capable. Emmanuel Sanders was gone. They didn't bring in a guy who was capable. I think that they went into this and didn't understand the wide receiver room wasn't where it needed to be
Mm-hmm.
to effectively make
It's
a
like
run.
we got Diggs. Well,
Yeah,
that's
we
okay.
got Allen. Allen Stott makes it so that we don't have to have the best offensive line,
John,
because he can avoid.
Let me tell you, you don't have to have the two top receivers in the league to win a Super Bowl. You have to have the best offensive line to win a Super Bowl.
Well,
because if your quarterback's got time, he can get the ball to guys.
Okay, well let me finish. They believed that that wide receiver room was good enough to win, and it
Yes.
wasn't. They believed they had an offensive line that was good enough to win, not because they were really good. They were a they've been a mediocre offensive line,
Hmm.
but because Allen is the quarterback and he eludes pass rushers.
Yep. He runs
Yep,
around.
he eludes
And
them.
he lets time elapse so that receivers could get open.
And
And
maybe and then try to make a play.
and the defenses started getting wise and figured, let's just go after him and put pressure on him. Enough pressure on him, he won't be able to get rid of the ball fast enough.
So getting back to my point, in
Mhm.
addition to the offensive line, not understanding that the offensive line wasn't good enough, they also went with a rookie offensive coordinator. I mean, you're
Mhm.
not just saying, "Hey, we're a Super Bowl contender, and we're going to go with this. We're going to promote from within." You're saying, "We're all in. We're all in right here, right now, and we're going to get a rookie offense coordinator who has never called plays, and that's what we're going to go all in with." It was. I don't criticize them going all in. I criticize the rest of the plan, and that they didn't set themselves up for success.
Once Dable was gone,
Dable
they
was gone.
didn't have plan B.
uh, and the plan if and the plan B wasn't good enough. Like
Their
it
plan
wasn't
B,
good
yeah,
enough, right?
they had a plan B, but their plan B was,
Promote from within,
yeah,
and that's
we
and
didn't
that
have the
sounds
right
fine.
guys within to be promoted to that spot.
He a year and a half later, you're firing him. So that's all I can say about that. Um, so I don't criticize them going it all in. I do criticize that they have a history. I feel of not before they signed Beasley and Smoke. They had a terrible wide receiver, terrible, maybe the worst in the league. So they signed Beasley and Smoke, and that really helped. And then they signed Davis, and you think they understand that offense in 2020, whatever, is passing based, and we've got an offense of the future here, and we got a quarterback that can make every throw. But then we see that their ability to evaluate their players, wide receivers, is not very good.
Well,
Let's
let's see what happens this year. That's why I'm saying if they got to attack the offense, they got to set that offense. Sometimes receivers take 1, 2, 3 years to
okay,
really
yeah,
come into their
yeah.
own. So if they get some young guys, by the time we get to that second or third year in my new plan, they're going to be weapons. And that will give the Bills enough time then going forward over the next 2 or 3 years to then be able to chip away at this defense.
Okay, so
Let's make the Bills offense
I
exciting and let them score. Maybe we're going to give up more points than we did, but maybe we're going to score more points than we did. Let's be exciting and then see what our defensive negatives are and fix the holes.
look. I have no problem with McDermott's job was never on the line this year. Bean's job is not on the line now, regardless of how great you think or the condition of the challenges with the salary cap or the conditions, the quality of the wide receiver room and the offensive line, regardless of what their jobs are now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we are getting to a point where someone else may need to lead this team to the promised land.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. They're not it. I'm not sure the owners are really committed to winning. Well, that's a video for another day. Maybe it's a teaser.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that I have seen some things that made me question whether the owners are committed to winning or if they're just committed to selling tickets.
I got a feeling that they are committed to selling tickets and that, listen, Bean and McDermott, this is your team. You do it. And if we take enough heat or we stop making money,
Mm.
then you're in trouble.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. If the fans turn on them, yeah.
We got a good team. We're into the playoffs. As fans, we're frustrated because we're not getting to the championship game, but they're selling a lot of merch. They're selling a lot of tickets. They're on all the best TV slots. They're making money.
It's true.
Come on, let's making money.
That's true.
So what do the owners have to be? They're busy with the worst team in hockey, with the Buffalo Sabres.
They're
If they
doing
need
it-
to worry about a team that's in the playoffs and going deep and making money.
They are making sure that the Sabres are always not good.
Mhm.
That they're very good at that. That's a thing for them.
Yes, think for that.
That's true.
So leave the football side alone, and let's see what happens. I let's watch what happens going forward in the
Yeah.
free agency,
Very exciting next week. I think we've got a lot of stuff to look forward to next week.
and we'll come back and we'll talk about what we see happening, and if it's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is going to happen, or
Right.
if there's something else going on,
We will
we'll
try-
talk about it.
We'll try to do another video after the free agency period, but before the draft.
Mhm.
So at that point, we think we'll have a better understanding of
Mhm.
what they might be looking for.
Yeah.
And where all they are.
No sense in making um, videos when there's just nothing going on and you're just rehashing the same old.
Yeah, this video makes sense.
We
because
watch other people do that and talking about the same things, and every broadcast, every one of them talking about the same thing.
previously, when they had to get under the cap, they did extensions predominantly. This year we saw a purge,
Mhm.
and some stuff was predicted because like safeties was kind of predicted. We didn't know what would happen with Trey White. You and I had maybe a difference of
We
opinion.
did. I felt they would drop them, and you
Yeah.
thought, no, that was going to create havoc in the
the
locker room.
right?
And it might still. We don't know.
And then, but I did not see them just dropping Morris like that, nor did I see them dropping trading Bates.
Yeah, Bates was a surprise for me.
That was a surprise for me. So
I'm a little surprised with Poyer. I thought they would keep the guy around until they transitioned in a new safety. Would keep him in the locker room for experience,
I hope
but he's
I
gone.
hope it's an indication that they understand that for 2 years they've had two safeties that probably don't belong in an NFL field anymore. As
Mhm.
good as they've been for them, they're not athletic enough anymore.
Look, and the safety depth in the college in the draft is not is. I mean, there's a lot of safeties, but the depth is not deep.
Mhm.
And so, if you don't take one in the first couple of early rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, you're not going to get the quality starter that you're hoping for. So again, we're
Hey,
going to
that's
see.
a preview of what we might do next week or before the draft.
Yeah,
All right, something to look forward to, folks.
and so we might see them going after a safety, or maybe they're going to resign Poyer. We're going to see. We'll see.
All right, and we just want to say thank you very much to all of our fans. Thank you, fan.
Thank you, all of our fans.
Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
And boom.